하지 말라 이 모든 건 우연이 아니니까 우리 완전 달라 baby 운명을 찾아낸 둘이니까
I usually don't do this, but for this particular video I decided to explain everything to you like this. I'm going to put subtitles down below so you can understand everything I'm saying, but I think it will be more efficient if I do it this way this time, so I hope you don't mind. I think it's a very good idea if we go back to the day that they actually met. Obviously we don't have any footages or videos of it, but Taehyung talks about it a lot in a lot of different times, so we can actually rely on it. In 2015, once they asked all members whose first impression they remember the most, and Taehyung said he remembered Jungkook the most. He said that he used to be very shy, that he couldn't talk with others, he waited for everyone to go to sleep before going to take a shower, that the first time they met it was at a vocal lesson, and Taehyung waited for him at night to come back, but Jungkook came late so he could take a shower when everyone were asleep. Another time he mentioned that he remembered how Jungkook used to be very into styling his hair and putting a lot of spray on it, and it was something that he could remember from those days. One of the things I want to mention in this video is the stages that they had during the whole years. It didn't start from somewhere and ended in the same place. It had a lot of ups and downs, and based on what I've seen, in the very beginning it all started by Taehyung only trying to help Jungkook get less shy, get better at expressing himself, and helping him to open up to others, mostly because they were very close in age. And this is the first stage that I'm going to talk to you about. It was about them being goofy together, playing around, just jumping around, and trying to bring the positive side of each other out on camera or off camera. They could understand each other. Jungkook even taught Taehyung how to play one of his favorite video games. They just kept doing whatever they wanted to enjoy together, and that's how close they were. But it was basically it. It was just them trying to express their emotions with each other and just having fun. Based on my personal experience, I know that, when you are a part of LGBTQ community, and in case they are, which is not something I'm implying, I'm just saying it's a possibility, when you are a part of it, you are not aware of it at first, especially when you live in a very different society who don't really bring it up that much. So it must have been very strange for them to even think about it at first, but there comes times that you still have that certain emotion toward certain people in your life, which is why we see them reacting in certain ways in the very beginning, but not being that serious about it. For example, in the very first stage of their relationship, when they were still goofing around and they weren't serious, you could see in one of the Bangtan bombs that Taehyung was talking to Jimin in front of a camera and complimenting his body and just letting Jimin to show it off and just, being very open about it. But at the same time, when Jimin started to tease back, Taehyung kept looking toward Jungkook, and then he tried to just cut it off, and then after a while he went to talk to him, but Jungkook just glared at him and mocked him because he was trying to say that he was hurt over something. I told you that in the first stage they weren't in a serious relationship at the moment, so how come Jungkook reacted this way, right? Well, as I mentioned, it's because even when you don't know about this kind of things, you still have this sort of feelings. Obviously, Jungkook didn't do that to hurt him. It was more like someone who didn't know about some kind of emotions or didn't want to admit it to anyone. And then seeing that someone he really cared about was complimenting someone else, having fun with someone else, and he felt very emotional about it, a bit hurt, so he tried to show his distaste in a way that wouldn't show his real emotions about that person. This kept on going and going until Rookie Kings. I remember while I was watching Rookie Kings, I could see that they really seemed close together and everything at first, but on the episode that Taehyung had to kiss J-Hope, the ones that were very obvious about it were the Magna line, and none of them seemed to know what was going on. Jungkook was very obvious about it, and then he seemed very excited, then he went back, and then he came back looking excited, and then after that, a few episodes later, we saw him looking very upset when they were talking about it again. This is what I mean. It's like sometimes it was there and some other times it didn't seem to be there because it really wasn't certain in him. But I think what happened in Rookie Kings was exactly what made them think, hey, maybe it's possible. Maybe we do have some kind of feelings like that. This brings us to stage 2. As you know, knowing takes time, and even if you know something, it takes time to actually proceed it. So we go from them being very obvious about everything and just being best friends and normal people to them starting to try things out, to compliment each other, to flirt sometimes, and just saying how things will go. And here comes the interesting part. You see, when you're part of the LGBTQ community and you start realizing that you have feelings for someone, you just start showing your emotions and at the same time you panic. And for sometimes you feel very self-conscious about every single touch, every single look, and everything that happens between you two. And this is actually something that I noticed in 2014. Starting from February 2014, they were in the 3rd stage, which was their panicking stage. Sometimes they would avoid skinship, sometimes they just would look away from each other, try not to have eye contact, or things that was like they were trying to avoid having closeness to each other. But the panicking stage also passed, and they went to another stage that was them knowing what was going on more and then trying to pursue each other, but in a safer way because they were still clearly afraid of what was going to happen. And that was basically how 2014 was. It started by them being a bit afraid and trying to take some distance, but in the end, they actually started to get closer. While I was checking their schedule on 2015, I realized something a little bit odd and interesting. First of all, the amount of interviews they had in the first 4 months of 2015 were much less than how it used to be and how it would be next year. The official things they released were mostly solo videos rather than group videos, and mostly things they filmed weeks or months before they actually released them. So basically, for a while, we couldn't really see what was going on between them. And then after these 4 months, things were much different between Taekook. Before showing you the differences, let's review the stages we talked about one more time. First was the close friendship they had, with the slight crushes and how they liked each other without even being aware of it. The second stage was the realization and doubts they had about their feelings, and pursuing the said feelings without much expectations. The third stage was the panic stage that caused them to avoid being too close to each other for a while. And the fourth stage was them knowing how they felt and spending more time with each other despite having the said fear and doubt.
뭐가 있어? 뭐가 있어?
Up till now, none of them seemed really aware if the other one was actually seriously liking them or not, or was it are just some bro jokes. And this is exactly what brings us to the fifth stage that happened in 2015. In the start of 2015, Taehyung and the rest of the members went home to see their family for about a week or 2 weeks. And when they came back, they had to go to some award shows, and then they had to go finishing one of their tours for Red Bullets. And when they came back, they had to get ready for their comeback. And when they came back, everything started to look very different from before. So what I'm calculating is that whatever happened and changed everything must have happened between the end of February until the end of April. You see, when you realize that your crush actually has a crush on you as well? Well, this is what I'm going to talk about, because that's the stage they went into. It was as if they knew about each other's feelings as well, and they were just teasing each other sometimes, just being playful about it, but at the same time keeping it a secret from their other Hyungs.
적으로 표현한 건 저희가 데뷔 후로 처음인 것 같아서
미안해 사랑해
But you see, just because they tried to hide it, it doesn't mean that the Hyungs never realized about it. They actually always knew about it from what I've seen. And this brings us to the next stage, in which they continued to be the same, but this time they didn't try to hide it, and the Hyungs actually supported them.
됩니다. 잠깐만 아직
잠깐만 아직 안 돼요. 아직 안 돼요.
됐고.
아직 좀 열어요. 좀 열어주세요.
열어요. 너무 쉽다.
I think you all know what stage comes next. Although the previous stage lasted for so long, it still didn't last forever. And in the middle of 2016, or even earlier, Big Hit started to separate taekook. And not just that, they even started to cut all the sons they had. It was very minor at first, just telling them to behave and everything else. But as the time passed, and while 2017 came, they were completely separated, to a point that they couldn't stop singing breakup songs, and there were barely any interactions between them. And here we get to the last stage, that we've seen so far at least. It happened in 2018. It's happening right now. And I'm still on my theory that I came up with a few weeks ago, the coming into light theory. Their relationship had a lot of ups and downs. They discovered a lot throughout the years. And last year, it was very tense to a point that it seemed to be about some breakups or something. But whatever it was, the separation, breakup, whatever you may call it, it's over now. I will make another one of that video just to bring up the last stage. But to summarize it all, Unlike before, Big Hit isn't stopping them anymore. They're actually very open again, and their relationship is better than ever from what we've seen. We don't know what happens tomorrow, but so far they're doing great, and the latest moments we've seen from them were the proof that they were still happy together, and they were going strong. Taekook lives.